Hello there. So today we're going to discuss the importance of creativity and the arts. And I'm happy to say I've got my good friend Alan joining us again, and we're both excited to explore this topic because, there's definitely some common ground we've got with music and other things in the realms of creativity. And it's one of my favorite topics, creativity. So just to kick things off, it's good to have you with us again, Alan, and I wanted to ask you, can you tell us a bit about your background or your beginnings, or just something that comes up for you around the arts and creativity, and like what got you interested, what got you excited about creativity or something artistic in your life?
That's a great question, Chris, and I can say that my earliest memories of anything to do with the creative arts goes back to, I can remember sitting in my parents' lounge and looking through my father's record collection, and I was just so interested in these beautiful album covers, and one in particular stood out to me, and you'll be astonished to hear it was a Beatles album, and there's an album called Beatles Oldies but Goldies, and the cover was in the format of a 1930s sort of art deco theme. And it was multicolored, and it was just fascinating. And so as a result, I then took the record out the sleeve, and that was a big thing to see this record, and put it onto the turntable and started listening, and that really was my introduction to music and a whole world of interest in music, how it sounded, how it was packaged, how it looked, and ultimately what, how I felt with it. So I just couldn't stop then wanting more of that.
Yeah, well, no surprises that the Beatles have come up already. And that's totally okay by me, by the way, because I've got similar stories of the Beatles showing up early in my life through my parents' vinyl collection too. And but just coming back to your discovery of the Beatles and this particular record and where that took you, and what was it about the Beatles and what they embodied as well, and what they represented, and just anything, like what was it about the Beatles that really spoke to you?
Well, I think, in those days I was pretty young. I would only be maybe 10 years old, but the majority of my parents' records were actually 1950s Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, dare I say Vera Lynn. They were very much, or the big band stuff.
Yeah.
So Glenn Miller, and so the Beatles stuff was just completely different. It was just this explosion of energy. I think was what how it resonated with me. And I think that's what, if you talk to people who were older at the time that the Beatles exploded and they were, young adults, it just changed everything. And the number of musicians, and off the top of my head I can think of, Tom Petty being one, who talks about seeing them on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, and just changed lives immediately, because it showed people, it showed a generation that anyone could have a musical instrument, express themselves in a way that was real for them, and have a good time, basically. And I think that was what was so exciting. It opened up possibilities for people.
Certainly was an interesting band. I'm just adjusting the chair. I think you're right about the Ed Sullivan Show. So I've read and listened to others talk about that it was such a pivotal time in culture and music, and it had like a global impact. And the interesting thing about the Beatles is, like, they presented kind of as these four sort of relatable guys, like, but they were sort of this genius band as well. But the music was sort of down to earth on one hand, but it was also very never to be repeated again, really, in terms of the heights they reached musically and the breadth and the depth they spanned and covered. Was pretty remarkable. But yeah, it had an immediate impact, like when they hit that TV show and that stage. And I heard similar that, Steve Lukather had, taken to the guitar. He was in Toto and did a whole bunch of studio work. But yeah, he was enamored by that particular performance and obviously band, and the Beatles really changed it all. I remember listening to the album Beatles for Sale, and John Lennon singing the Chuck Berry song, actually, Rock and Roll Music.
Yeah, yes.
And I remember turning that up on the record player and just like, when I was like 5, just
rocking out.
Yeah, just jumping around the living room, and my brothers and I just jumping around. So I think I like what you said about the energy, like it sort of brought you to life, There's a lot of life in it, and excitement, and and how did things where did things go from there in terms of your interest in music? Obviously Beatles were early days, and where have you gone since then with music?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm pleased to say I'm not. There are other bands and genres of music I listen to, but what the Beatles did is it got me interested in music, and then from that, my parents bought me a guitar. When I was probably 12 or 13, and my best mate at the time also got a guitar. So we did music lessons together, and for a period of time there, just there was nothing other than music that I was interested in. I mean, looking back, and I hadn't really thought of it until recently, I was quite a creative kid. I did enjoy drawing and painting, but it wasn't really encouraged at school. Enjoyed music, and I think the whole creative arts was something which, certainly in my day in Scotland, it wasn't really seen as a serious hobby, and certainly not a serious thing to do from a career point of view. So it's very much a fringe sort of topic, I suppose.
Yeah, I can relate to that. In high school, there was this huge emphasis on sport.
Yeah.
And just moving the chair again. we're distracted by the cat, which has decided to join us on the podcast, and possibly going outside for some more adventures, more cat adventures. So I remember at high school feeling a bit like the outsiders were in the music class, particularly as we got closer to the end of high school, like year 11, year 12, there were less and less and less people in music. And there were still stacks of people doing sport and other more mainstream subjects.
Yes.
For, I say that very tongue-in-cheek. And I remember there was just a handful of us doing music, and it was easy to sort of feel like you're on the outside a little bit. So cat returning to base. It was.
So it wasn't encouraged in the sense of.
It was.
Did you have this sort of passionate music teacher who?
I did. The music. It was like it stood alone in its own little corner of the school, and most people sort of didn't know what to make of it, and but I was drawn to it, and a few other people were, and we had a funny music teacher who was a bit eccentric, if you like, but in a good way. Like, I really liked him because it's like he spoke his mind, and he didn't try and fit in with the image of the school or anything, he was just himself, and I think I just started to trust that and feel comfortable with that, and it was more interesting. I found there was a dullness in some of the other subjects, and some of the ways some of the other subjects were taught. There was a lack of personality and a lack of joy in the way some of the other subjects were taught. But I felt like my music teacher got a bit of a kick out of teaching music, particularly later in high school. Like, by the time we got to year 12, we were there because we wanted to be there.
Yes.
And I think he thrived on that. Like, he knew, these guys and girls want to do music. So he could sort of roll with it more and enjoy it more, and probably feel appreciated more. It was actually probably kept me sane in year 12 doing music, along with all the other subjects which were less exciting.
I think it was the same in my school. Definitely, you called them outsiders. We probably were called weirdos or worse. But and we used to sort of hang out in one part of the playground, and we'd every sort of week or two we'd bring in a new album and talk about it and whatever. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're right, it's very much a fringe.
So I think where this leads me now is creativity isn't always at the forefront of whether you say education or some of the the culture even. Sometimes it can drift to the background in life as well. And how has creativity been a part of your life over the years, or not been a part of your life, and where do you want it to fit in now? How do you want it to look now?
I think it's a really interesting question, because what I realised fairly recently again was that growing up I didn't value, although I enjoyed my music and I certainly saw the importance of it to me, I I didn't actually see it as having the same value as, for example, being an accountant or a lawyer. And that was basically my upbringing, my culture. And I look back at it now, and I realise, from the point, performers, entertainers, creators, whether it's art or music, poetry, whatever it is, they have the ability to change it sounds very dramatic, to change lives with what they do, because unlike accountancy or law, I would argue the arts has the ability to get inside you, to connect with your soul, and to lift you up.
There's always been something rich and fascinating and exciting about the arts, and including music, of course. And I like what you said about the soul, and I think there are all sorts of occupations and components of our economic system that may be serving a purpose, but it almost feels like, someone's got to do that, someone's got to do, like, whether it's lawyers or doctors, and that's never been my passion. And it could be, I can understand it might be the passion of others, but I think passion is probably a big part of it, isn't it? And you're right about music can be life-changing and so appreciated in some situations, and then in other situations it can be cautioned against, like, well, it's not a safe career path by any stretch.
No,
and
absolutely.
it's a rocky career path.
Yeah.
And so stay away from that, or just put it on the back burner and go and be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant.
Get a real job.
Get a real job, because you'll struggle. And I think you need to look at the whole picture. If it was just about money, if it's just about making money, it wouldn't be a great bet to just go, well, I want to be a musician because I want to make a lot of money. It's much easier to pursue something else and make money, but I think the notion of a good life isn't based just on how much money we make, and which sort of opens up this discussion a little bit more. But
It's probably,
I guess, and that's why I think people lose that creative edge and that passion for the arts and passion for music, is it drops down the list of priorities, because it's like, oh, I've got to take care of this, I've got to take care of that, I've got to make money, I've got to start a family, I've got to buy a house, I've got to, and that can never end. And then people can get to the end of their life and go,
hang on,
geez, I wish I didn't work so much. I wish I actually did something for myself, and I just didn't try and keep up with all the bills and sending the kids off to private school and getting out of debt and doing this job just because it gave me a lot of money. And then once I realized I was earning a lot of money, I just stayed in it because it was going to be too hard to start again. And I had to kiss goodbye the dream of being an artist or being a musician or whatever it was. And on the outside, they might be taking care of things, so it seems. But on the inside, their soul is lonely, and there's so much more to this person than just being a money-making machine or a provider, if you like. And yeah, I think, it's it's a there's different risks we can take in life, and one risk is to pursue creativity in the arts and make it a bigger part of life, and yeah, it can mean financially it can be a long road, but
yeah, it's interesting because you're right. I mean, from a career point of view, the arts has always been something that's a degree of difficulty, 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of making it a successful career. I would say, but not everyone needs to make a career out of it, and I think that's where.
Yeah.
And if I look at my own situation, I didn't leave enough space for long periods of time for me to explore the creativity and do my day job because of a lot of the things you talked about. The family, looking after the family, paying the mortgage, basically, whatever.
And I think for me, I realised that I'm okay at this point having a day job and keep continuing with my music and creativity, but I need to be particular and discerning about what the day job is. And I think even the day job itself needs an element of creativity in it.
Yep.
Even if it's not the stereotypical musician creativity of going off and recording an album or going off and playing a tour or a string of shows, and of course I've dabbled in all of that too, and I'll continue to do that, but I don't need to have this pressure of like, oh, that's where I need to make all of my money. I can also make money in other being creative in other ways, and being of service in other ways, and allowing creativity to come through in both those areas of my life. And I think, whereas years ago when I was starting out, I had a job as an engineer and I had a job as a musician as well, and the thing was, the engineering didn't have the creativity and authenticity that I needed. So it was really.
Did you realise that at the time?
Well, eventually, but it what happened was it wore me down.
Yeah.
It wore me down, and all I would do is I'd be at work and the phone would ring and I'd be, oh sweet, it's the drummer calling, and we're going to talk about the album, and we're going to talk about the latest review we got in the album, and how exciting is this, and the next gig we're going to play, and all I got to a point where all I was thinking about was writing songs and where the band was going, and I remember my boss looking over and I'm on the phone, and thinking, oh, I'm going to get busted. Like what am I doing here? I don't think I belong in both of these worlds, and I'm glad that I gave away the engineering when I did. I didn't drag that out for too long, because it would have, it was starting to bring me down. So, it's a journey getting the pieces together where you can, let's say, be creative, be artistic, but also look after yourself in those other areas of life.
Yeah. Do you think creativity is something that you're born with, or do you think it's something that evolves through time as a result of experiences? So like my example of, the catalyst was finding that album. If I hadn't found that album, would I still be
I don't think you would have been able to live under a rock for too long away from the Beatles and
no.
other music that grabbed you, you know. I think you were meant to meet that passion of music. It was going to awaken in you at some point.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. The thing also which I find interesting is, in talking about careers, is that I do remember when my final year at school, we had a careers teacher, and of course it was, you had a 10-minute session to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life, and that was more than enough time.
No pressure.
Yeah. and I don't know where, and I look back and I think, where the hell did this come from? But I remember saying to him that I wanted to be a naval architect. Not just an architect, a naval architect. And this is a guy that's never been on a boat in his life. In Scotland, you certainly didn't go swimming in the sea, that's for sure. So my connection with water I didn't really have. But, I look back now and it's interesting because the architecture is obviously a creative industry. And I didn't follow
so
that
specific.
through.
Yeah.
But even if I'd just become an architect, and
yes,
and the reason I didn't follow through, and this gets to the whole practicality of why we do certain jobs, either for pay or to get a job. The architecture course was 7 years at university.
Wow.
And I just thought, no way
No
am
way.
I writing off my world, writing off 7 years, and I'll be starting earning money 7 years, 3 or 4 years later than I'd want to. So anyway, point is, I sacrificed. Looking back, I sacrificed my artistic side and potential career in using my creative abilities, whatever they were. I never found out, to do something more conventional, and which was a 4-year course, not 7, and it was very transactional, and it was very much about money and real estate, and that was me for the next 40 years.
Which you would say, although it gave you some financial stability, you didn't have the level of passion in that work as you did, say, architecture or music.
No, definitely not. The interest wasn't there. It was. I was, and again, I look back and it's like I was sort of forcing a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, and with the engineering, for me, I mean, it wasn't totally a misnomer, because engineering can be creative, and I knew that I was drawn to creativity, but I think more than just creativity, I wanted to be artistic. And engineering certainly isn't artistic. It's very much about black and white and right and wrong and analyze this, analyze that. And what happened was it was keeping me in my academic, analytical mind. And for whatever reason, my soul wasn't happy with that, because as I've learnt over the years, my soul had a very different need and for a different journey, and that would I guess open me up in different ways, not just academically and analytically. And in fact, staying in those areas was becoming problematic, because I had so much to figure out about the rest of my life. And it wasn't until I laid down that responsibility of engineering that it freed me up to start being a teacher, a music teacher, and I've sort of come full circle with that again, even though I've dabbled into alternative therapies and that kind of thing, and that's been part of that soul journey for me, of connecting to the whole self and not just the analytical academic mind, but connecting to more of who I am, and yeah, there's been sort of some need for recovery and healing of parts of myself that I psychologically distanced myself from, and experiences that I'd shut out in my life that I needed to reintegrate to bring myself into more ease and balance. And at this point, I've come full circle, and I'm still a music teacher, but the way I approach music teaching is more holistic these days. Whereas 10 years ago it was more about doing things on the outside, and now it's more actually about tapping into what's happening on the inside and allowing that to inform how things are expressed and how things can be created on the outside, so I think what I'll say this year is I'm excited to be rebuilding the music teaching. Let's call it my day job, and it's a big part of who I am and a big support in itself, and it also takes the pressure off me when I go and play on the weekend and do a gig on the weekend, and it takes some of that pressure off, because the gig can just be what it is, and it takes some of that financial pressure off, and that side of things.
Can I ask, do you feel, in terms of being creative, is there a difference? Do you feel a difference when you're performing and doing your gigs versus when you're teaching? Or are they is it much the same place it's coming from when you're...
It's a good question. It's a really good question. I think I'll start with the things that are similar, which is I have to listen to what's going on inside of me in both instances. But I guess when I'm doing a gig, for example, there is this kind of, there's still this pressure, if you like, that I've got to entertain people,
right,
or keep them engaged, and I'm generating a lot of the energy, at least initially. Whereas there's something with the teaching where that energy is very, I would say, in some ways, the teaching, in particularly one-to-one teaching, because I'm doing one-to-one teaching, and I'm in the early stages of doing the group teaching as well. And with the one-to-one teaching in particular, I feel less pressure, because I feel a confidence that we'll be able to find our way of contributing to where this student needs to go, wants to go, and it's easy to open up that dialogue. Whereas at a gig, sometimes it's a little bit of it feels like there can be a period of time at the gig where I'm finding how to open up that dialogue, like that energetic dialogue with the audience.
Right.
Like, where is everyone and where am I and how can we meet each other? And sometimes there's a little bit of trial and error. Like, I'll try these songs and see how that goes.
In doing the trying, that's you, again, drawing on your creativity, isn't it? To find a way to make that connection. So you're having to maybe more think on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of it's the more I drop into what I'm doing, and feel more connected to what I'm doing, the easier it is to navigate the unknown waters with the gig, and with the teaching, really. Like, in other words, the more I drop into the moment and the intuition starts to kick in, right? And I feel like I can trust that intuition, and then I start to know what song to do next. But there's sort of a warming up period. There can be a warming up period where I'm finding my feet a little bit, and because every gig's a bit different, so it's always unknown territory.
Right.
Like, for me, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to a gig. It's a bit of an adventure out there, and that's what keeps it exciting as well, because it keeps me on my toes, and it never gets totally easy.
No.
And it's, I would say it's always a lesson on how can I drop into that sense of trust and intuition where I can lead the way and feel like everyone's coming along with me, or at least, the majority of people are joining me,
Yeah. So it feels like intuition and creativity are very much linked.
Yeah.
And it's like, as you say, trusting your intuition.
Absolutely. And even on the point of creativity, like where I was 10 years ago versus today when I'm doing gigs, I really try and interpret the song in a way that works for me rather than just perform the song. I'm trying to interpret the song.
Yep.
I'm trying to listen to what feels good in how I sing the song, and what tempo I play the song, and what kind of vibe I give the song. And sometimes I might do an upbeat version of a slow song, or a slow version of an upbeat song, or I'll just change the key, or I'll just do a more stripped back version, or a more lively version, or all those things. And it's about what rhythm feels good to me, and what melodies are feeling good to me, and like trusting again that the guitar and the voice can kind of roll with that a little bit, and I can put my own stamp on the songs. Then it connects with me more, and more easily, and then more likely to connect with someone else.
Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like it should almost be self-evident, but if you were say you're talking to one of your students who is considering playing live and doing something, what would you say to them are the main benefits of expressing and this creative side of them? What how do you feel? What do you get from it?
Yeah, like how would I be encouraging a student to perhaps go off and play music for people?
That, what could they expect?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's about being seen. It's about being witnessed. It's about telling a story and having the opportunity to do all those things, and to create a good energy for people. And I think if whoever's doing the music, if they're doing music that they love and resonates with them, it's going to there's going to be an aliveness to it, and a passion, and it's a way that they can share that with other people, and there's a lot of satisfaction in that. There's a lot of satisfaction in going, I got to sort of feel like I was sharing some of my story through this song that I love, or I just love the beat to this song, or I love the melody to this song, or I love the words to this song, or it's just speaking to me right now. And if I get to express that, it really enlivens me, and then potentially enlivens other people listening. And it's like, we're all going to have a better day now. Like we're just
Yeah.
all we're all going to be happier, you know.
Yeah, I love it.
And yeah, like it's a good
Well, it feels,
Yeah.
music matters.
good way to make a difference.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it's a complicated industry, and maybe that's a subject for another episode we can do. But the music industry, yeah, it's complicated. Because I agree, music matters, and it's amazing how many musicians are out there, and they are making people happy, and some of them are being rewarded fairly well, some of them probably not being rewarded very well financially in particular, and that's a bit of a global dilemma. And as I said, we could come back to that, but just as we start to bring things together for this episode, I was just going to ask you this question. What would better support your creative endeavours moving forward, Alan?
I think for me, I now I no longer underestimate the value of me finding an outlet to express myself, and the most obvious way for me at the moment is through music in terms of my guitar. But I've recently started just doing some sketching and drawing, and it's just doodles. It's not much at all, but it's interesting how even that takes me out of my head space, and that's what music does. So the first thing is just quite simply is acknowledging the importance of it and making it a non-negotiable in my quotes schedule.
Yeah, that's great. I think what I feel listening to you say that is like not leaving things too long, like just making it a regular practice to be creative. And whether it's little drawings you're doing or picking up the guitar and practicing, you're making it a habit, regular practice, and not putting it off.
And that's, I mean, I've gone years in the past when I haven't picked up my guitar.
Yeah.
And I know that I've lost out as a result of that.
Yep.
And I'm trying to sort of make up lost ground now. But it's never too late. That's one thing I've realised. It doesn't take much to start a new habit, and I think what better thing to and creativity. I mean, the other thing I like doing is, pottering around in the garden and my plants, and I think there's creativity involved in that.
I think so. I think so. There's this connection between creativity and nature, really, because to me, why would I be creative? It's actually to return to my nature, and it's to connect to my nature, and it's to express my nature, right? And it can take on different forms. It can take on the form of drawing, as you said, or it can take on the form of playing guitar or singing or writing songs or gardening. So there is this bond or this connection between nature and creativity, and absolutely, nature inspires creativity, and vice versa. When we're being creative, we're really being our natural selves, rather than, as you said, being in all these thoughts that can be a drag. We can actually enjoy being who we are and have a healthy outlet for that. And And
I think it's a mindset thing. I think for many years I kind of almost felt guilty if I was sitting playing the guitar, or it felt like a selfish thing to do.
Yeah.
And again, I know now that's not correct thinking. That's, you know, it's the opposite of that, actually.
I think so, because I think all the practical things are going to keep happening. Like, got to make a living, got to clean the house, got to, take care of business, got to do this and do that and look after this person and blah, blah, blah. All those practical responsibilities will continue and carry on. But what happens is the joy and the playfulness and the creativity can get left behind, and it needs to be prioritized, because you don't want your soul to be dying. You want your soul to be nourished and honoured and, given priority.
Yeah, and let's be honest, we're going to be better people to be around.
Yeah.
If we've got that inside us, because if we don't, we are going to be. It's going to be less energy.
I think so. There can be a rigidity without tapping into that creative energy and that, let's call it, that playfulness, that passion. Then there can be a rigidity to just keeping up with things and just doing all the so-called essential things, whereas actually creativity is essential, and everyone has maybe a different purpose with it. Like, some people just need to do music a lot to feel good, and other people need to write a lot, or they need to garden a lot, and it's like just finding. I'm not even going to say the thing, because there's usually more than one, but finding the things in your life that are creative, that do make you feel good and make you feel like there's meaning and there's richness and there's joy and excitement and something to celebrate and look forward to, and
and to share. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
it brings people together.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. It really does. Like, I think it's like music is the universal language. That's one example, and you're right. Like, it can, other than the World Cup, music can bring people together. So it's been really good to talk about creativity with you, Alan, and just hear a little bit more about your journey, and I'm sure we'd love to explore this or similar topics in the future and just hear more about your story. But thanks so much for sharing all that with us today.
Thanks for having me back, Chris. I'm very much looking forward to the next one.
Awesome, mate.
Yep.
Well, we shall do that. We shall plan something down the track. And thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been good sitting here with Alan, and we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And we'll catch you on the next one. Happy creating. Bye for now.